I truly believe our best beats anyone's best. Bold words from Leon Draisaitl earlier today, getting set for tonight's Game 5 in the Western Conference Final. Talk about that and lots more. Let's bring in Ryan Rishaug. Ryan, you've known Draisaitl since he came into the NHL. What did you think of his comments today?
I thought it was confident. I think that's exactly what Leon Draisaitl believes. And why wouldn't he, Gino? They were one of the best teams in the league, for the last, half of the season or more. Like, absolutely, Leon Draisaitl should feel that way. I think you're in a Final Four here. You just came out of a Game 4 where your best did beat the other teams. So, yeah, I like it. And in fairness, he was asked about their team's best being enough to beat Dallas. And he responded by saying, I think our best can beat anybody. So I like that confidence from Leon Draisaitl. That's very real from one of the best players in the world. And I'll be honest with you, Gino, and again, I was watching the media availabilities, on camera this morning. I was able to watch practice through our camera's live feed from Dallas. And I have to say, the Oilers were a pretty loose group today, man. Like, they were easy going. They were laughing and joking a little bit in their media conference. Draisaitl joked that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is the coach's favorite player ever. The Oilers were a pretty loose, easygoing group today. There was some confidence there, and I like that quote from Draisaitl.
I appreciated his honesty, and I appreciate the fact that he just said it kind of matter of fact. It was not a big deal. All right, so let's talk about what we saw on the ice today. There was Noah Vander Kane. I'm assuming he's still in the lineup tonight. And after 3 major changes going into Game 4, what, if anything, are you anticipating going tonight's critical Game 5?
Yeah, so we'll read into practice a little bit here, and we'll deal with just the Oilers. I do expect Evander Kane will play. He has not been practicing on a lot of off days or game days as he continues to nurse that sports hernia that he told us he had before the playoffs started. I do think there's a potential switch on the 4th line based on lines today. Looks like Derek Ryan will come out and Sam Carrick potentially draws in Gino. And this one is interesting to me because Derek Ryan's been good for this team. He's a big part of the penalty kill, often one of the first ones out there on the penalty kill. But Sam Carrick is a more physical, robust player by nature. And I think the Oilers found a formula in the last game. And I think that formula involved a little bit more physicality, being a little harder on the opposition D. Sam Carrick is a guy who, that's kind of one of his specialties, right, is being physical. So, interesting tweak. If that's the way Chris Knobloch goes, you normally wouldn't want to change a winning lineup, but this one makes sense to me, and Carrick has been very good in the faceoff circle as well.
Huge lineup question mark right now about the Dallas Stars. That's Chris Tanev. Tanev has been amazing so far in these playoffs, shutting down the best player on the opposition. Did it to Jack Eichel, did it to Nate McKinnon. We know that he blocked a shot. We know that apparently, according to Pete DeBoer, it hit a soft spot on Tanev. Do we know if he's going to be playing tonight?
So Pete DeBoer said he was optimistic. Said he's a game-time decision, but used the word optimistic. Now, let's remember we're talking about Chris Tanev, right? If he's conscious, he can drag himself onto the ice and he can play a game. He's just that tough, Gino. So if there's any way for him to go, he's going to want to be in there. And it'll be a big swing for the Stars if he's not available for the Oilers, I should say, because he's played some big minutes. He was brought in to play against the other team's best. That's what he's done in this series. He's done a good job. He's an absolute warrior for them. But I will ask you this, Gino. Do you remember a couple of years ago in the Battle of Alberta, Tanev was hurt against the Edmonton Oilers? And I remember watching before, can't remember which game it was in Calgary, and we were watching Tanev in warm-up, and he couldn't even handle a puck. He was dealing with a shoulder injury at the time, and we were going, there's no way this guy's playing. He played, but he was not effective. He really, really struggled out there, and if you'll recall, McDavid and Draisaitl absolutely feasted. So, while you love a guy to be a warrior, you love a guy to be willing, Tanev has also shown he'll play through stuff that maybe you shouldn't. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go with this decision tonight. But if he's in, what percentage is he at, Gino? That's a question that I'd be asking.
Yeah, and I take that a step further. I go, not just what percentage, but how much ice time. Because right now, they're really only using, Dallas is only using 5 D-men, and Tanev's eaten a huge proportion of those minutes, especially facing Connor McDavid. So even if he does play, the question is how much time will he be on the ice, specifically against Connor McDavid? McDavid is so close to his first ever Cup final appearance. Is this the kind of game that you could see him breaking out especially on a hobbled Chris Tanev, and turn out a huge game, potentially his best game of these playoffs so far?
I mean, we said that about Game 7 against the Canucks. We've said that a few times, and I think, like, what does a breakout game look like in the Western Conference Final? Well, Robertson certainly had one the other night, right, with his 3 goals.
Mr. Hat Trick.
Certainly showed that it's doable. McDavid is still going to have to go toe-to-toe with Esa Lindell and Miro Heiskanen. That is a tall order when they put those two together and put him out there against them. But he's Connor McDavid, right? So you expect big moments. You expect him to be able to look like he's dominating at times. We haven't seen a lot of that in this series. McDavid has still been excellent, and he has still found his moments, and he has still been a huge part of this team being where they're at. So, yeah, feels like one of those nights, Gino. It certainly does. But the Stars are going to have something to say about that. I think McDavid will be pushing the ball in the right direction tonight, pulling the rope with the rest of his team, doing what he can, and I think he's going to find his moments, Gino.
All right, so we're in Dallas. Now, I had a conversation with the coach, Bruce Boudreau, earlier today, and I thought, advantage Dallas because they're on home ice. This is what you play the whole season for. They were the top seed in the West, so they get home ice at a critical time. And he said, absolutely not. Huge advantage for the Oilers because the Oilers are thinking, hey, even if we don't win tonight, we're going right back to home ice, whereas the Oilers are thinking this is almost like house money, tonight's Game 5. They're in the driver's seat, less pressure on them, more opportunity for them. You know this Oilers team. Do you think that works in terms of a mindset for Edmonton right now?
I mean, I think the Oilers understand this is a great opportunity. I think they're perfectly fine with being on the road. They're comfortable on the road. No question about that. And I heard Bruce talking about that with Jay Onrait the other night too, and it was really funny because he said, I would take a Game 5 on the road in any series. Well, that means you're taking Game 7 on the road as well, and he joked about his record in Game 7s and such. So, sure, it works great for Game 5, but it means you don't have home ice advantage, right? So, listen, I think that the Oilers definitely, they seemed looser this morning. Flat out, they did. The Dallas Stars were all business, man. And they're like, if we lose this game, we're heading out on the road to try and salvage the season. That's a different type of pressure than the Oilers, to your point, who get to come back home to try and save the season. But I think more than anything, Gino, the way the Oilers played last game, the fact that they came back in that game, the fact that they got to Jake Ottinger and got that many goals past him, I think there's a lot of reasons why the Oilers are probably feeling as confident now as they have at any point in this series. And I'm sure they're very comfortable to be on the road with a chance to apply this pressure. And more than anything, Gino, meet this moment.
For those of you who don't know the reference, go out and Google Kevin Bieksa meet Edmonton Media, and you'll understand what he's talking about here. But I'm not going anywhere near this, Shocker.
It was just a turn of phrase.
By the way, to our viewers on YouTube, thanks very much for all the comments. Thanks very much for all the support. And for those of you who are taking Ryan Rishaug's side, feel free not to comment moving forward.
The smart ones.
I'm kidding.
Yes.
We appreciate your
We'll
comments.
all agree to agree that I'm right, Gino.
All right. We'll see. We'll see, because I'm on Leon Draisaitl's side. I said right from the start of the series, the Oilers are the best team still in these playoffs.
You did.
And you doubted me, my friend. Draisaitl and I are on Team Reda, and you're on, well, I'm not sure whose team you're on, but we'll see how that
Well,
goes.
the one thing you were right, Gino, when you were talking about the difference in the depth and not necessarily buying that the Stars were that much deeper than the Oilers, I think where that's really coming to fruition is on the blue line, right? Because with Tanev out, I mean, it gets really thin on that back end. Like, the Dallas Stars are getting in, like, Alex Petrovic hasn't been in the NHL for 4 or 5 years. He's been an American League player, and he's been playing games for them. So I think where you definitely hit the nail on the head depth-wise, it applies on the blue line. And if Tanev is not in, when you look at who's next up, like, that's a big advantage. So on that small, teeny, tiny little point, you might have had a point.
But to your credit, though, even if Tanev is in, you make a good point. If he's not at 100%, that could sway hugely in Edmonton's favor. So, Game 5 tonight, critical swing game, as the Oilers and Stars are all even at 2 in the Western Conference Final.